Hello guys and girls, and welcome back to another episode of SebTalksSports. That intro music and podcast theme was created by All-Pro New York Giants running back, now music creator and friend of the show, David Wilson. Go and check him out on all of his social media platforms at @4StillRunning on Twitter and Instagram, and his music under David E. Wilson across all good music streaming services. He's free for business, so drop him a message if you want some beats for your podcast, advert, commercial, absolutely anything you need. Before I get into this episode, I just want to say that if you're not already following SebTalksSports across all platforms, then please do. You can find me on Facebook, SebTalksSports, YouTube, SebTalksSports, Twitter @SebTalksSports, and Instagram, where I'm primarily active. Again, it's @SebTalksSports. Today I've got an incredible guest, a 7-year guard who played over 100 games for my favourite team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and was a key offensive lineman who allowed quarterback David Garrard and running back Maurice Jones-Drew to succeed in Duval. It's fan favourite Uche Nwaneri. Enjoy! My guest today is a former 7-year offensive guard who played no fewer than 104 games for my Jacksonville Jaguars and allowed Pro Bowl quarterback David Garrard and 3-time All-Pro Maurice Jones-Drew to do their thing. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Uche Nwaneri to SebTalksSports. Uche, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate it. How you been doing? How you doing over there across the pond?
Yeah, we're all good here. All good. I hope you're staying safe and looking forward to getting into it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you and talking some football.
Let's do it. Okay, so I want to go right back to the beginning of your career, the very, very beginning. So what would you say were your earliest memories of both watching and playing football? And at what point did you know you could play it as a career?
All right, so this is this is a bit of a out there story, I guess. I mean, maybe other people have had the same kind of experience. I don't know, but my first time ever touching a football, I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. I remember this vividly because it was like it was slightly traumatizing, but at the same time, it was like it was that moment when I knew it was the sport I wanted to play. I was about 5 years old. First time with a football. My parents got me a football, and me and my brother were in front of our apartments in the middle. There's a big open field in front of our apartment complex, and we were just throwing the ball back and forth, throwing it back and forth. My dad comes walking out of the apartment building. He's walking to his car to go to work in the morning, and he's like literally about to walk into the street to go to his car in the parking lot, and he turns around. My parents are Nigerian, so football to them is soccer to us, but my parents also love football, like our football. So my dad tells me to throw him the ball. I throw him the ball, and I'm like, throw it back, Dad, throw it back. And he punts the ball. He kicks it to me, and it beelines straight to my face and bounces off my forehead. And I go leaning back. I'm like, whoa. And my dad is walking through. He's like looking at me, and he starts laughing and chuckling. And he keeps walking to his car. And for some reason, with that ball bouncing off my forehead, I decided that was the moment that I wanted to be a football player. And the first time I ever saw it actually on TV it was a 49ers game. I think they were playing against the Rams. I'm not sure, but it was the gold helmets that drew me in immediately. And from there, my favorite team was the 49ers growing up. And, at that point, I knew I wanted to play football.
Nice. And then obviously if we move forward a little bit to your college career, because you had a good college career at Purdue. So your junior year in 2006, before you forewent your senior season and declared for the draft, the Boilermakers went 8-6, 5-3 in the Big Ten, and made it to the Champs Sports Bowl against Maryland. You alongside fellow NFL stars, Pro Bowler Anthony Spencer and Super Bowl champion Cliff Averill, of course, just to name a few. So how much did you enjoy your time at Purdue, and what was it like to share that year with your teammates?
Oh man, Purdue was great. It's a great university, great school. Obviously, one of the top universities out there. We put the first man on the moon. I make sure I tell everybody that we put the first man on the moon.
Nice.
And the football program when I was at Purdue was actually held in pretty high regard amongst Big Ten schools. Very, very much respected. in the national scene because we put out a lot of good NFL players, a lot of guys who went on to have solid NFL careers, championship NFL careers. And, playing with guys like Spence, me and Spence were roommates our first 2 years in college. And he never spoke. We were always like, this guy like a serial killer? Is he gonna kill us? Like, he never speaks. Our freshman year, it took us a little bit of time for him to get him to start talking, but he talked. He was just being quiet because he was just being quiet. But Anthony Spencer, great friend of mine. Cliff Averill, great friend of mine. Still talk to him to this day. We had Kyle Orton. We had guys like Nick Hardwick, who were also teammates during our time at Purdue. A lot of guys who got drafted, a lot of guys who had lengthy careers and played well, had solid time in the NFL. But there's it's just that kind of connection you have with guys for life once you've played and you guys have been able to achieve your goals and make it to the highest level of football. It really is something that we talk about. We just kind of sometimes step back and just think about it, whenever we speak on the phone or whenever we're text messaging. But it was great playing with those guys and to be able to get some of the things we got done at Purdue in college, it was really amazing. We had some good memories.
Nice. And obviously you individually had a great time at Purdue because on the 29th of April 2007, after a great junior season at Purdue, you're sat there in the 5th round and then your phone rings. And of course, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars who select you with the 149th overall pick and make you a Jaguar for the next 7 years. So how did it feel to receive that call and officially make it to the NFL? What did it mean to you and your family?
Well, obviously it's a dream come true, like we think about this from the moment we put on pads. And for me, it was actually a bit of a surprise that Jacksonville was the one that drafted me because I'd only talked to Jacksonville at the combine and had never talked to them after that. And the teams that were really pursuing me, leading up to the draft, I had Kansas City, Chicago, Atlanta. These teams were sending me paperwork to fill out. They were calling me almost, 2 or 3 times a week going into the draft. And, my agent was speaking with a lot of speaking with people from those franchises. And that was kind of the vibe of where I was thinking I would go. I didn't want to go to Chicago, too cold, but I was like, Kansas City, it's still cold, but I like that Kansas City, just the vibe of that. And when, Atlanta, when they were giving me all that attention, I was actually like, that's where I want to go play.
Yeah.
I actually thought that that's where I was going to get drafted because the Falcons were going to actually were using that. They were in that slot, the 149 slot, and the Jaguars traded them 3 6-round picks to move up and take me at that spot instead. So, but nonetheless, man, I mean, it was a dream come true. The phone call was, it was surreal. Like, I was at home in Texas. Everybody in my family is there. And, it just got real quiet while I was on the phone. And, my dad's like walking around pumping his fists like, yeah. And it really was just one of those milestone moments that, you never forget. And to this day, that's kind of that part of my, I guess, loyalty as a Jaguar. Part of what makes me a Jaguar is the fact that team, took a shot at drafting me, gave me the opportunity to come into the league and to play. And I was able to prosper because of it. So, that there's a certain amount of allegiance that you have when you're given that kind of opportunity by a franchise. So it was an amazing moment. And, it's just something that I'll always carry with me.
That's great to hear. And of course, your rookie season that followed that phone call was an extremely successful one for the team because you went 11-5 and made it to the playoffs, beat the Steelers away in the wildcard round, and made it to the divisional round where you played and unfortunately came up short against the Patriots. But those are the Patriots that went 60-0 in the regular season, had 9 All-Pros that year, so there's no shame in that at all.
And cheated.
Yeah.
Got caught cheating.
For sure. And I know you only played 9 games that year and made 1 start in your rookie year, but can you describe the atmosphere throughout that season? And what was it like to be in the locker room, mate?
That rookie year, man, it was unforgettable. And you know, it's weird because I still remember as we're walking into the tunnel after we lost that game to New England, one of my teammates, Tony Pashos, taps me on the arm while we're walking back in. He says, enjoy this, Uche. He says, win or lose, you got to enjoy this because you may never get back to the playoffs again. And at the time, I was like, ha, you see the team we got? We're good. We're going to be back here next year too. This is easy. And we never made the playoffs again after that, my entire career. We were close. We were there at the end of the season, I think like 3 or 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
But we never got back into the postseason. So I thought that was a special season because there was just so many things there were so many things that I learned about how much it takes to win a football game in the NFL. And to watch how a franchise operates and is successful and overcomes, disappointment. We lost to the Colts on Monday Night Football, and we were faced with a little bit of adversity through the first half of the season, and then we were able to string together wins, and we ended up, 11-5, and really, the atmosphere when you're in a winning program is night and day between when you're in a program that's still trying to find itself. So for me, that I wish it would have maybe come one more or two or three more times, but to be able to experience it at all, I think was something of an achievement in itself, because there are a lot of players who play on teams and their entire career they never even get to taste the postseason. So it was a great season. I mean, that in 2017.
Yeah.
Obviously, those are the 2 hallmark seasons for the Jaguars in the franchise's history thus far. So, definitely was an amazing time, and hope to see it return sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, while you only played 9 games that season, a couple of years on, you played a lot more. You played in all 16 regular season games, you made 13 starts at right guard when you won the position there, obviously opposite the late, great Vince Manuwai, who I'll get to very shortly.
Yeah.
And throughout the season, you only allowed half a sack and had 0 penalties, which is just an incredibly successful and disciplined season, to say the least. So I'd love to know, how were you able to noticeably improve your game from that point, from your second year to third year? And what was it particularly you worked on? Was there anyone that helped you?
My second year, I went in at right guard to replace Maurice Williams. He tore his tricep in warm-ups. Then I had to move back to left guard at the second, like in the fourth quarter of the game, because Vince Manuwai tore his ACL. So they put me, myself, I had injured my knee in the first half, but then had to come back. And so they moved me over to go play against Albert Haynesworth in his contract year. So I'm like, wait, I'm hurt. That guy on the right side, he's not hurt. Put him over here. So so that he can have somebody at full power who can try and handle this monster of a man. But from my second year to my third year, honestly, man, I had guys like Vince Manuwai. That's the guy who took me under his wing when I came to Jacksonville. He's a guy who taught me a lot of tricks in terms of kinds of blocks that I can use on guys, and how to just be able to give yourself an advantage wherever you can during the play, and what to think about for different kinds of plays to understand the concepts of it and know where you want to be at. Vinny had a lot to do with me picking up the nuance of the game more quickly because of his experience as a starter. And my third season, when they moved me to the right, once Vince came back from his injury, I just felt more comfortable on the right for some reason. I'm a lefty, so for some reason being on the left side didn't feel quite as smooth and as balanced as I felt on the right side.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things where, every game, I tried to study as much film as I could against for the opponents that I was going against, whoever I was going to be playing against on the defensive line. And I just, tried to play fast, try to play with my instincts, but also tried to play smart. And honestly, I had no idea until the end of that season that I had only given up half a sack. I gave up, and I remember these stats because my agent was like, "This is what we use to get you paid. Like
Nice.
you're one of like 4 guards in the NFL who didn't give up 1 sack." So I didn't give up a sack. I gave up half a sack. I had no penalties. I had only given up 11 or 18 hits on the quarterback for the entire season.
Wow.
And on the right side of the line, Maurice Jones-Drew averaged 14.7 yards a carry. So that's what my agent walked into the negotiating room with. Like, here, do you want, we can go find somebody who will take it,
Yeah.
But no, I think that mainly the improvement came from understanding how to be a professional, and understanding the value of film, understanding how to watch it the right way, communicating with teammates, understanding what not only your assignment is, but everyone's assignment. I also played center as well. So I was the backup center and the starting right guard. And really, it was just a matter of allowing myself to absorb information, take it out of the practice field, repetition with it to create muscle memory. And, I just worked. I just fought out there on the field. I tried to dominate the guys I went against.
Obviously, we mentioned Vince Manuwai there. I want to touch on that a bit more quickly because in that 2009 season, like I said, you started alongside the late, great Vince Manuwai, at offensive guard, just Jags legend and number 18 on the All-25 list last summer, which was well-deserved because he was just incredible throughout his time in Jacksonville. And, of course, he tragically passed away in late 2018, and he's sorely missed by all of us Jags fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace, Vinny.
Absolutely.
I actually have his his funeral pamphlet up there on top of my dresser with my stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was it like to play alongside Vince, and how key was he as a mentor? What was he like as a guy?
Oh, man, Vince was just, you talk about a dude who's just, okay, so you picture a Hawaiian. You picture these big Hawaiian guys who are just all laid back and chill. And Vince, he was that personified. But he was such a good-hearted person. He just wanted to take care of his people. And, he was a guy that, I really followed. I followed him around, throughout the course of my first, couple seasons. Like, I literally would, what are you doing tonight, Vinny? Like, coming to your house, I'm coming over to the house, or, let's go do this, let's go do that. And he's just a very soft-spoken guy, a very, very friendly. He loved gaming. I would sit there and watch this dude play modern Call of Duty for hours. And he was like, it looked like he would be asleep. I'd be like, because Vinny sat, when he played his games, he sat like this and played. And I'd be like, Vinny, you awake? And he's just sitting there just killing people, gunning. But, just a guy that had – he just had so much, respect from his teammates. And, he had so much love from us because he was just that kind of guy. He's a guy that you felt good to be around. I mean, it's hard to explain, that you want to be around somebody just because it feels cool. It feels good to just have them in your presence. And that's how Vinny was. And Vinny was one of my few teammates that I actually talked to very regularly after I retired. So me and him, I had talked to him a few weeks before he passed. And, he was just, he was just a warm-hearted person. And we missed him. Obviously I was there at the alumni game, when his wife came to represent him for being in the top 25. But just a great dude. And, just a big hearted teddy bear, man. I love that. Yeah. I love that guy, man. I loved him. I was hurt so badly when he passed. You know, everybody on the offensive line, everybody on the Jaguars, we all loved him. And, you know, we just continue to try and honor his memory and remember him for, you know, the great friend that he was, the great teammate that he was. And you know, I never forget, you know, what he taught, the things he taught me. I teach those to offensive linemen now.
Yeah, rest in peace, Vinny, because sadly missed. And obviously, Vinny was one of the best players you played with in Jacksonville, but he wasn't the only great player you played with in Jacksonville, because you played with some fantastic players. Obviously, All-Pro Fred Taylor, who's behind you on the wall, Maurice Jones-Drew, All-Pros Rasheed Mathis, Davies Lewis, Mike Peterson, David Garrard, John Henderson, like some incredible players.
A lot of great players.
That's it. But I want to know which one of those most stuck out to you, and who was the greatest ever teammate you had, ability-wise, and as an offensive guard, who was the toughest defensive lineman you ever had to block?
I would say, man, it's hard to pick. I mean, when you talk about your teammates, you know, there are guys that you're really close with off the field. There are guys that you're close with, you know, in the locker room. But, you know, everybody has their own life outside the locker room. So some guys, you don't see as much outside the locker room, but that relationship is still there. I mean, obviously, I think for me, if I had to pick one, you know, I would pick Maurice Jones-Drew. Mainly because Maurice and me have been friends. You know, we were friends and we were close buddies off the field as well as on the field. I was around him probably more than any other one of my teammates when it came to, you know, off the field. You know, just off the field hijinks or whatever you want to call it. But then, you know, guys like Mike P was a great teammate, you know, great guy. Big John. I just talked to Big John about a month or so ago.
Nice.
You know, Big John is still, you know, he's in Jacksonville still. And, you know, these are guys that you talk to because, you know, there's a brotherhood there.
Yeah.
Brad Meester, I've talked to him since. I talked to Pashos. I talk to Pashos almost regularly. Khalif Barnes, you know, before he, you know, even though he left after my third, fourth year, you know, Khalif, we still talk to him. You know, a lot of guys, Daryl Smith, still talk to all those guys. So we had a lot of really good players on our team, and it's kind of a shame that you know, because the Jags are a smaller market team, haven't been around as long, you know, these guys sometimes get overlooked, but you know, make no doubt that these were guys who were among the best in the NFL at their position, and they really were you know, great guys as teammates, as well as, you know, people who you know, handled business within the community outside of football. Now, as far as who's the toughest defensive lineman I went against, man, I've gone against some really good ones. Yeah. It always feels like no matter how, I mean, because, you know, I played against guys and thought, well, this guy's not nearly as good as, you know, the coaches were saying he was, or this guy is just as good as he looked on film, you know. But you know, I hadn't played against anybody on the defensive line who I felt was an overwhelming force for me outside of Albert Haynesworth. Yeah. Albert Haynesworth was always just a handful. And the thing about Haynesworth was that if he was motivated, it was almost impossible. It was very hard to stop him. And, you know, the first time I ever played against him, he rocked my world. I was just like, yeah, this guy, I'm a second-year player. He's in his contract year. This guy is throwing me all over the place. There's nothing I can do. But as time went on, you know, I play him better and better and better. And, you know, 3 years in, now I'm pancaking him on some plays. And I'm, you know, but the thing with him was you never, ever want to talk. I would help him off the ground. We knew each other on first name basis. I would act like, hey, it's okay. Whatever you need, I'm here for you, because he's bipolar. You saw what he did to the Cowboys center. He stepped on that guy's face. So you don't want him mad. We would watch film when he'd get pissed off and just start throwing linemen around the field. And I mean, it was ugly. But I think from just that standpoint of having to deal with somebody who's athletic, powerful, you know, massive, he would probably be the first one that I would tick. And I'm talking about the Tennessee Titans Albert Haynesworth, not the Washington Redskins Albert Haynesworth. But him and I think him and what was the defensive tackle from the Cincinnati Bengals? I always want to say BJ Raji, but it's not BJ Raji. It's
He's still playing or not?
I don't know. I don't think he's still playing now. He couldn't be. I mean, he might be, but he'd be like 14 years in by this point. But he was a Pro Bowl defensive tackle for the Bengals back when I was playing. Not Pecco. Pecco was the Hawaiian cat with the big hair. He was the other one. But those were two guys that I thought were really really good players. Also thought that Brian Williams from Buffalo, the defensive tackle from Buffalo, I thought he was a very good player. But again, like I said, when it comes to just one guy, if I have to just pick one, I would say Hainsworth.
Yeah, for sure. He was a problem. Okay, so, I mean, during your time in Jacksonville, you've had some great coaches. Super Bowl champion Jack Del Rio, who was head coach throughout most of your time there. Now the DC in Washington. Dirk Cutter as your OC, who was, of course, responsible in part with Kyle Shanahan for that 49ers team a few years back, which was just incredible. And then Andy Heck, of course, you would have spent a lot of time with, and we were talking about just off air before we got into this. And he was obviously responsible for that offensive line that protected Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes just this year. So some great coaches. And, of course, including any others you'd like to mention that I haven't mentioned, who was responsible most for your great career and which piece of advice they gave you was most useful?
Oh man. I think Andy Heck was is one person that I can definitely attribute a lot of my success as a player to, just because of his style of coaching. That guy to me is the best offensive line coach in the NFL. I thought he was when I was in Jacksonville, because he just understood football past just the X's and O's. Like, he understood why you were doing what you were doing. He understood what the defense was doing and why they're doing what they're doing, and how to counter those and what kind of things defeat the kind of schemes that defenses can come up with. He took all of that knowledge that he had as a player and all the knowledge he had as an assistant going through the league and then becoming an offensive line coach. The way that he taught us as players, he taught us as if we were the quarterbacks, to know every position on the field. Every offensive lineman should know what the entire offensive line responsibilities are on every play. You should know what the defensive fronts are on every play. You should know what the coverages are. He taught us the coverages. So he would quiz us on those in meetings on what coverage is this, what coverage is that. And, knowing those things, I mean, you would think that it would be a little bit overkill for a player to know that a defense is in like cover 3 buzz or cover 2, or they're running a saw dog blitz or whatever it may be. But knowing what defensive fronts teams use, why they use them, knowing what kind of blitzes they like to run, knowing what their coverages look like and what their disguises for blitzes look like, all those things really did make the game easier. It made it easier. I remember I would be at the line of scrimmage. We'd be playing like the Houston Texans, and I would just be – I called out like 4 or 5 of their defenses in a row, and they ran those plays. And I was like, wow, he was right. It really does matter. And it's having people like that, having people like Andy, who I still talk to this day. I talked to him the night that they won the Super Bowl. Having somebody who understands football like that, who understands all of the nuances and is able to teach those, because it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to be able to teach somebody else that information as well. I think it speaks to the fact that he's one of those top ranked coaches at his position. You look at how his offensive linemen in Kansas City play. Those guys, I watch their games and I'm seeing exactly what I learned. I'm seeing the same kind of movements, the same kind of blocks, the same kind of attention and awareness that's being paid to the defense. I see it, and so it makes me proud to have been, coached by a guy like that. And for me, I think that as far as me on the field, Andy would be the largest influence on that. And also right behind him, I would put Vince Manuwai right there as well, because he taught me a lot of things that helped my game as well.
Awesome. Okay, so my listeners know that I'm a big Jags fan, and like many of us across the globe, we love having you on our O-line for those 7 years. And you're quite a rare type of player in that you spent your entire career playing for one team, which is not so common nowadays, obviously with the money and that kind of thing. And I'm sure there are many Jags fans watching this that will want to know, what do the Jacksonville Jaguars mean to you?
The Jaguars, that's for me, that's part of my identity. I mean, I think that's really part of who I am, because like you said, I played my entire career there. And, I had a short stint in Dallas, after Jacksonville, and it just didn't feel the same. It felt vastly different being in an organization like that as compared to being in the Jaguars, and there's something to be relished about being in that underdog position at times. But also just the relationships I had with players in Jacksonville, the relationships I had with people in the city, the friends I had in the city, the people I'd done business with, the people that that I was able to get to know over 7 years was just something that you don't normally, that's not something that you always get to enjoy as a player in the NFL. There are guys who bounce around from team to team all the time. And in my situation, I was lucky enough to be somebody who played their entire career in one place and was able to have that kind of stability and was able to see some success. And then, also able to learn from times when we weren't doing as well. And, it really boils down to, this team took a chance on drafting me, and any draft pick that a team takes is an investment. It's a risk. So for the Jags to take that kind of risk on me as a player, to give me an opportunity to come in and play and be a contributor, and then be a starter, and then be, a core player on the team, you kind of, that molds who you are as a player. Like, that molds your identity as a player. So for me, it doesn't matter if the Jags don't win a game. Like, I'm still a Jags fan. Like, I bleed teal. Like, teal and black is my thing. So, it means a lot to me to be a part of that. It means a lot to me to really put myself, to really see myself as a Jaguar, even after the fact. So, it's important. It's hugely important.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Uche, I want to end with some quick fire questions. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, favorite takeout food?
Sushi.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Biggie or Tupac?
Tupac.
Favorite sports movie?
Ooh, Any Given Sunday.
Funniest guy in the Jags locker room?
Paul Spicer.
Best locker room prank you saw throughout your career?
Donut Gate.
Nice. Who's your favorite NFL player of all time?
Oh, favorite NFL player of all time, Steve Young.
Who's the greatest offensive lineman of all time?
Larry Allen.
Yes or no, will Gardner Minshew be the man that gives Jacksonville our Lombardi?
Really? You're going to put me on blast like that? No.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Okay, and finally, can you give us your best Duval? Amazing. That's the perfect way to end it. Uche, thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find you on social media, but also on your YouTube channel that I know you do some great work on?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on, I also have a Twitch. I also have a Reddit. You can find me on Twitter. I would say just type in my name, because not every one of my screen names are the same. But type in my name, Uche Nwaneri. You'll see everything pop up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check out some videos there. Yeah, man, that's I'm all over. I'm all over as far as social media goes. But I really do appreciate you having me on, man. It's good to really get to sit down and talk with somebody who's a fan, somebody who's covering it.
Yeah.
And you're all the way in on the other side of the pond in the UK, and to see Jags fans is always special. Anytime I see anybody, like I've seen people out here in Atlanta, not many, but I've seen one or two where I'm walking into a store and he's wearing a Jaguars hat, and I'll literally be like, "Go Jags," and then walk off. and he doesn't even know that he's talking to a former player. I just like, go Jags, and then walk off. And so it's always good to be able to talk to somebody who's also so enthusiastic about the Jaguars.
Of course, man. Yeah. Thanks again for your time, and stay safe and keep doing your thing.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That was my interview with the incredible Uche Nwaneri, a fantastic player who helped out my favourite team massively over the course of his 7 years there, and an even better guy who's now enjoying podcasting and content creation of his own on his own YouTube channel. Definitely go and check that out if you want to see some more of Uche. I've got many more great guests coming very soon, so stay tuned right here on SebTalksSports. And to take us out as usual, here's another brilliant track by All-Pro New York Giants running back, turned music creator and friend of the show, David Wilson. Catch you soon, guys.